7 years ago, Evan Hart gave Amara Cole an ultimatum that shattered her heart. Get rid of the baby, or we're done. She chose her child, and he walked away without looking back. But fate has a twisted sense of humor, because on a crowded Saturday afternoon at the outlet mall, their 6-year-old son would innocently return a stranger's lost keys and whisper the one word that would bring Evan to his knees: Daddy. What Amara didn't know was that Evan had tried to call her back that same night 7 years ago, begging for forgiveness in a voicemail she never received. Now, as 3 pairs of identical blue eyes stared at each other across the mall fountain, the man who once demanded she erase their son's existence would have to prove he deserved a place in the beautiful life they'd built without him. If you're watching this story unfold, hit that subscribe button and tell me what city you're watching from, because love, redemption, and second chances happen everywhere, and I want to know where you believe in the power of forgiveness. The mall was loud that Saturday afternoon. Kids ran between stores while their parents chased after them. The smell of soft pretzels mixed with the scent of new shoes from the store displays. Amara Cole pulled her purse strap higher on her shoulder and watched her 6-year-old son bounce on his toes. Can we get ice cream after this? Micah asked for the 3rd time. Maybe, she said, the same answer she'd given twice before. Her voice was warm but tired. Working as a dental assistant all week left her drained, but weekends belonged to Micah. Always. They walked out of the shoe store with a small bag, new sneakers for school. Micah needed them, even if her budget was tight. She was good at making things work. Had to be. Look, Mama. Micah pointed to something on the ground near the fountain, a set of car keys with a small metal dog attached. Someone dropped their keys. Before Amara could stop him, Micah ran toward the keys. Her heart jumped. The mall was crowded, and she hated losing sight of him even for a second. Micah, wait. But he was already picking up the keys, looking around for their owner. A man stood by the fountain, patting his pockets with a worried look on his face. He was tall, with light brown hair, and wore a blue work shirt with paint stains on the sleeves. Are these yours? Micah asked, holding up the keys. The man turned around. His eyes were bright blue, and when he smiled, lines crinkled at the corners. He looked surprised but grateful. Yes, thank you so much. He crouched down to Micah's level. You just saved me a really bad day. Micah beamed. He loved helping people. Always had. You're welcome, Micah said. Then he tilted his head, studying the man's face. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or just curiosity. You look like... Micah started, then paused. Are you someone's daddy? The question hung in the air. Innocent. Simple. But it hit like a punch. Amara had been walking closer, ready to thank the stranger and pull Micah along. But when she heard that word, Daddy, her feet stopped moving. When she saw the man's face clearly, her blood turned cold. Evan Hart. The man who had walked out of her life 7 years ago with an ultimatum that still echoed in her nightmares. Get rid of the baby, or we're done. Their eyes met across the few feet of space between them. Time folded in on itself. She was 21 again, standing in their tiny apartment with a positive pregnancy test in her shaking hands. She was watching him pace the kitchen, running his hands through his hair, saying words that cut her heart in half. Get rid of it, Amara. We're not ready. I'm not ready. She had chosen her baby. He had chosen to leave. Now Micah stood between them, still holding the car keys, looking from one adult to the other. The noise of the mall seemed to fade away. Daddy, Micah said again, softer this time. The resemblance was there. Anyone could see it. The same blue eyes, the same square chin, the same way of tilting his head when thinking. Evan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His face had gone pale. His hands trembled as he took the keys from Micah. Thank you, Evan finally whispered to Micah, his voice rough. Amara found her strength. She walked forward and placed a gentle hand on Micah's shoulder. Come on, baby. We need to go. She kept her voice calm and even. Micah didn't need to see her panic, didn't need to know that his simple act of kindness had just turned her world upside down. Thank you for returning the keys, she said to Evan. Polite, distant, like he was any other stranger. But he wasn't a stranger. He was Micah's father, a father who had never wanted his son to exist. Amara. Her name fell from his lips like a prayer. Wait, please. She was already walking away, Micah's small hand warm in hers. She could feel Evan's eyes on her back, but she didn't turn around. Couldn't turn around. Mama, Who was that? Micah asked as they reached the parking lot. Just a nice man who lost his keys, she said. Her voice stayed steady even though her heart was racing. You did a good thing helping him. They got in her car, a 10-year-old Honda with a small dent in the passenger door. Amara gripped the steering wheel and tried to breathe. Her hands were shaking so hard she couldn't put the key in the ignition. Through the windshield, she could see the mall entrance. Evan stood there, watching. He looked lost, broken, nothing like the angry young man who had stormed out of her life. But it didn't matter how he looked now. What mattered was protecting Micah, protecting the life she had built for them. A good life, a safe life. She finally got the car started and pulled out of the parking lot. In her rearview mirror, she watched Evan grow smaller and smaller until he disappeared completely. But the damage was done. The careful peace she had built around her heart was cracking. That evening, Evan sat in his small apartment staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. His phone lay on the table next to him. He had picked it up a dozen times, then put it down again. The smart thing would be to let it go. To pretend the mall had never happened. To go back to his quiet life and leave Amara alone. But he couldn't stop seeing Micah's face. Couldn't stop hearing that word. Daddy. He had a son he had walked away from before he was even born. His hands clenched into fists. The shame was like acid in his chest. For 7 years, he had told himself he had made the only choice he could. He had been 23, broke and scared out of his mind. He wasn't ready to be a father. But looking at Micah today, seeing those bright blue eyes and that easy smile, Evan knew the truth. Ready or not, he had been a father the moment Amara told him she was pregnant. He had just chosen to run instead of stay. The apartment was too quiet, too small. He needed to talk to someone before he did something stupid, like show up at Amara's door with apologies she wouldn't want to hear. He picked up his phone and dialed. Luis. Evan. His mentor's voice was warm but surprised. It's late, son. Everything okay? Luis Ramos had been Evan's foreman for 3 years. More than that, he had become the father figure Evan had never had growing up. When Evan had started working construction after high school, Luis had taken him under his wing, taught him the trade, taught him about life. I need advice, Evan said. I messed up something big a long time ago. Today it came back. Luis was quiet for a moment. You want to come over? Maria's making coffee. No, I just need to talk. Then talk. The words came out in a rush. The whole story. The pregnancy. The ultimatum. The years of regret. The chance meeting at the mall. The son, who looked just like him. Luis listened without judgment. He was good at that. What do you want to do? Luis asked when Evan finished. I want to fix it. But I don't know if it can be fixed. Everything can be fixed if you're willing to do the work, Luis said. The question is, are you the same scared kid who ran away, or are you the man you've become? Evan thought about the last 7 years. The therapy he had started when panic attacks made it hard to work. The nights he chose to stay home instead of drinking his problems away. The steady routine he had built. The way he showed up for work every day, rain or shine. I'm different, he said. But she doesn't know that. Why should she believe me? You don't make her believe anything, Luis said. You show her, day by day, week by week. You prove it with your actions. What if she won't let me? That's her right. You made a choice 7 years ago. Now she gets to make hers. They talked for another hour. Luis didn't tell him what to do, just helped him think it through. That's what good mentors did. After he hung up, Evan sat at his small kitchen table and pulled out a piece of paper. He wasn't good with words, but this was too important to mess up. He wrote slowly, crossing out lines and starting over. Amara, I don't have the right to ask for anything from you. I know that, but I'm asking anyway, because I need you to know that the man you saw today isn't the same person who walked away 7 years ago. I was wrong. Not just wrong, I was cruel. I was scared and young, and I thought running away would make the fear go away. It didn't. It just made everything worse. I've been in therapy for 4 years. I don't drink anymore. I show up for work every day and try to be the kind of person people can count on. I'm not telling you this to make excuses. There are no excuses for what I did. I'm telling you because I need you to know I've changed. I'm not asking to be in your life, or in Micah's life, but if you would meet me for coffee, just once, I would like the chance to apologize the way I should have 7 years ago, to say I'm sorry and mean it. If you say no, I'll understand. If you say yes, I'll meet you anywhere you feel safe. Your choice, your rules. I won't contact you again unless you want me to. Evan. He read it 3 times, then folded it carefully. His truck started on the second try, a miracle for a vehicle with 200,000 miles on it. He drove to Harbor Diner, the place where Amara used to go for late-night food when they were young. Old habits died hard. Maybe she still went there. The diner was busy for a Saturday night. Families, couples on dates, teenagers sharing fries. Normal people living normal lives, not people trying to fix mistakes that were 7 years old. He walked to the counter where a teenager with purple hair took orders. "Hi," he said. "I have a letter for someone who might come in later. Amara Cole? Could you hold on to it for her?" The kid shrugged. "Sure. Last name? Cole. C-O-L-E. Got it." Evan drove home with his hands steady on the wheel. He had done what he could. The rest was up to Amara. It was almost midnight when Amara pulled into the Harbor Diner parking lot. She was exhausted. It had been a long week at Dr. Patterson's dental office, and today's trip to the mall had drained what little energy she had left. But Micah was with her sister Nadia for the night, a rare treat, and Amara was too wound up to sleep after seeing Evan. She needed comfort food and a few minutes to think. The diner looked the same as it had 7 years ago, red vinyl booths and black and white checkered floors, the smell of coffee and bacon. It used to be their place, hers and Evan's. They would come here after movies, sharing milkshakes and talking about the future like they had forever to figure it out. She ordered her usual, a grilled cheese and tomato soup to go. The purple-haired cashier handed her the bag, then paused. "Are you Amara Cole?" Amara's stomach dropped. "Yes. Someone left this for you." The kid handed her a white envelope with her name written on the front in familiar handwriting. Amara's hands were shaking again as she walked to her car. She sat in the driver's seat with the engine off and the letter in her lap. Part of her wanted to throw it away without reading it. Part of her was dying to know what he had written. Curiosity won. She tore open the envelope and read by the light of the parking lot lamps. Each word hit her like a small stone. Therapy, sobriety, showing up, the apology she had needed to hear for 7 years. But apologies were just words. She had learned that the hard way. Her phone buzzed with a text. She grabbed it, grateful for the distraction. It was from Nadia. "How was your day?" "Micah's asleep. He had fun at the mall." Amara's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, "He showed up today." 3 dots appeared immediately. Nadia was typing. "Who?" "Evan." The phone rang 30 seconds later. "What do you mean he showed up?" Nadia's voice was sharp with worry. "At the mall." Micah found his keys and returned them. He saw the resemblance. "Oh, honey," Nadia's voice softened. "Are you okay?" "I don't know." Amara told her sister about the encounter, about the letter, about the way Evan had looked when Micah called him Daddy. "Block him," Nadia said when she finished. "Change your number. Protect Micah. You don't owe him anything." "I know, but..." Amara stared at the letter in her hands. 7 years ago, Evan had been a boy who ran when things got hard. Today, he looked like a man who knew how to stay. What if he really has changed? People don't change that much. Some do. "Amara." Nadia's voice was gentle but firm. "You're a good mom. The best. You've given Micah everything he needs. Don't let some guilt trip from his father mess that up." It wasn't a guilt trip. It was just honest. They talked for another 10 minutes. Nadia made her promise to think carefully before making any decisions, to remember what was best for Micah, not what felt right for her heart. After she hung up, Amara sat in the quiet car and ate her soup. It was lukewarm now, but it still tasted like comfort, like home. She folded the letter and put it in her glove compartment. Then she drove home to the small apartment she and Micah shared. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen that barely fit a table for 2. But it was theirs, safe and warm and full of love. Micah's room was dark and quiet. His superhero nightlight cast shadows on the walls. She stood in the doorway and watched him sleep, one arm flung over his head, the other clutching his stuffed dinosaur. He was perfect, smart and kind and funny. He asked a million questions and gave the best hugs in the world. He was her heart, walking around outside her body. For 6 years, it had been just the 2 of them. They had a routine: breakfast at 7, work and school, pick up at 5:30, homework and dinner and bedtime stories. Saturdays at the library, Sundays at the park. Simple and good and enough. But lately, Micah had started asking questions. Why didn't he have a daddy, like his friend Jake? Where did daddies go when kids didn't have them? Was it his fault? Each question broke her heart a little more. She always told him the truth in simple words. Some families had mommies and daddies. Some had just mommies. Some had just daddies. Some had grandparents or aunts or other people who loved them. What mattered was the love, not the shape of the family. Micah always nodded like he understood, but she could see the longing in his eyes, the way he watched other kids with their fathers at the park, the way he drew pictures of stick families with a mysterious third figure that he never explained. Maybe it was selfish to keep Evan away if he really had changed. Maybe Micah deserved the chance to know his father, or maybe she was just tired of carrying all the weight alone. She kissed Micah's forehead and went to her own room. The letter stayed in her car all night, but the words echoed in her head until sunrise. Sunday morning came with rain tapping against the windows and Micah's voice calling from the kitchen. "Mama, the cereal box is too high." Amara smiled despite the exhaustion in her bones. 6 o'clock was early for a Sunday, but Micah's internal clock didn't recognize weekends. She found him standing on his tiptoes, reaching for the Lucky Charms on top of the refrigerator. He was still in his dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up in 3 directions. "Good morning, sunshine," she said, getting the cereal down. "Can we go to the park today? It's raining. After it stops? Maybe." He poured milk over his cereal with careful concentration. Most of it made it into the bowl. "Mama, that man yesterday, at the mall." Amara's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. "What about him?" "He looked like me." The words were simple, observant. Micah had always been good at noticing things. "Lots of people have blue eyes," she said carefully. "Not just his eyes, his face, the way he smiled." Micah took a bite of cereal. "Do you know him?" Amara set down her spoon. She had never lied to Micah about important things. She wasn't going to start now. "I used to know him, a long time ago. Before I was born? Yes. Is he my daddy?" The question hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Amara looked at her son's earnest face and made a choice. "Yes," she said. "He is." Micah nodded slowly, processing. "Why didn't he live with us?" "Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes hurt people." "Did he hurt you?" "Yes, but not on purpose. He was scared." "Of what?" "Of being a daddy. Some people get scared when big things happen." Micah ate more cereal, thinking, "Is he still scared? I don't know. Can we find out?" The innocence in his voice made her chest tight. He didn't know about ultimatums or abandonment or the kind of fear that made people run. He just knew he had a father he had never met, and he wanted to understand why. "Maybe," she said, "but it would have to be very slow, very careful, to make sure everyone feels safe." "Okay." Just like that, he went back to his cereal. Crisis solved in his mind. Adults would figure out the complicated parts. After breakfast, Amara sat on her couch and pulled out her phone. The letter was still in her car, but she had memorized every word. She typed a text message 5 different times before settling on something simple. "I got your letter. I'm willing to meet for coffee. 1 hour. Public place. No promises beyond that conversation." She stared at the message for 10 minutes before hitting send. The reply came back in less than a minute. "Thank you. When and where?" "Tuesday, 10 a.m. Coffee Corner on Main Street." "I'll be there." She put the phone down and pulled Micah onto her lap. He smelled like cereal and sleepy little boy. She buried her face in his hair and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Outside, the rain had stopped. Thin sunlight filtered through the clouds. "Mama?" Micah's voice was muffled against her shoulder. "Yes, baby? I love you. I love you too. More than all the stars." It was their ritual. Started when he was 2 and still going strong. No matter what happened with Evan, that would never change. She was Micah's mother, first, last, and always. The rest was just details to be figured out. Tuesday morning arrived grey and cloudy. Amara dropped Micah at school and drove to Coffee Corner with her stomach in knots. She was 15 minutes early, which gave her time to pick a table with a clear view of the door and 2 exit routes. Old habits. 7 years of single motherhood had taught her to always have an escape plan. She ordered a latte and checked her phone. 2 messages from Nadia. "You don't have to do this. Call me after. I love you." Amara was typing a reply when the door opened. Evan walked in, looking around nervously until he spotted her. He was 10 minutes early too. He looked different in daylight. Older, more solid. The boy she had known was all sharp angles and restless energy. This man moved with quiet purpose. His work clothes were clean but worn, his hands were calloused but steady. He approached her table slowly, like she might bolt if he moved too fast. "Hi," he said. "Hi. Can I sit?" She nodded toward the empty chair across from her. He sat down carefully, keeping his hands visible on the table. No sudden movements. "Thank you for agreeing to this," he said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure I would either." He looked tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there when they were young, but there was something else too, a stillness that hadn't existed before, like he had learned how to be comfortable in his own skin. "You look good," he said. "Happy." "I am happy." "Good. That's good." They sat in awkward silence for a moment. 7 years was a long time. They were strangers now, connected only by a shared past and a little boy with blue eyes. "Tell me about him," Evan said quietly. About Micah. The request surprised her. She had expected apologies and excuses, not questions about their son. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Anything. I've missed 6 years." The pain in his voice was real. Whatever else had changed, his regret was genuine. "He's smart," she said, "curious about everything. He asks why the sky is blue and how fish breathe underwater and whether aliens like pizza." Evan smiled. "Does he like pizza?" "Pepperoni only. No vegetables. He says green things don't belong on food." "What else?" She found herself talking. About Micah's love for dinosaurs and superhero movies, about the way he made friends with everyone at the playground, about his habit of collecting interesting rocks and his dream of becoming a paleontologist. Evan listened without interrupting. He asked good questions. About school and friends and favorite bedtime stories. He wanted to know if Micah was afraid of the dark. Yes, but only a little. And whether he could ride a bike. Not yet, but he was learning. "He sounds amazing," Evan said when she finished. "You did good, Amara. Really good." The compliment caught her off guard. "It wasn't easy. I'm sure it wasn't. I should have been there to help." "Yes," she said. "You should have." The words hung between them, honest and sharp. "I can't change what I did," Evan said. "But I can tell you why I did it, if you want to know." "I want to know." He took a deep breath. "My dad left when I was 8, just disappeared one day. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us fed, and I swore I would never put a kid through what I went through. When you told me you were pregnant, all I could think about was how badly I would mess it up, how I would ruin everything, just like my dad did. So you left anyway." "So I left anyway." His voice was thick with shame. "I was an idiot, a coward. I thought running away was protecting you both from my mistakes, but I was just making the biggest mistake of all." Amara stirred her latte, thinking. The explanation didn't excuse what he had done, but it helped her understand it. Fear made people do terrible things sometimes. "What changed?" she asked. "I had a panic attack at work about 4 years ago. Couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Luis, my foreman, drove me to the hospital. The doctor said it was stress and recommended therapy." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "The therapist asked me what I was most afraid of. I said, failure. She asked me to define failure. Took me 6 months to admit that I had already failed in the worst way possible. I had a son I had never met because I was too scared to try. And I've been working on it ever since. The fear, the drinking, the running away when things get hard. I'm not perfect, but I'm not the same person who walked out on you." Amara believed him. She could see the change in the way he held himself, in the way he answered her questions without defensiveness, in the way he talked about Micah with wonder instead of panic. But believing someone had changed and trusting them with your child's heart were 2 different things. "There's something else," Evan said. "About that night, when you told me you were pregnant." "What about it?" "I left a voicemail. On your phone, about 3 hours after I walked out." His hands clenched on the table. "I was drunk and crying and I said I was sorry. I said I wanted to come back and figure it out together. I said I would support whatever decision you made about the baby." Amara's world tilted. "I never got a voicemail." "You never?" His face went white. "Oh God, you changed your number." The pieces fell into place. She had changed her number the next morning, unable to bear the thought of him calling to argue more. She had been protecting herself, but she had missed his attempt to make things right. "I would have listened," she said quietly. "If I had gotten that message, I would have listened." They stared at each other across the small table. 7 years of misunderstanding stretched between them. What might have been different if she had heard his voice that night, broken and sorry and wanting to come home? But there was no point in dwelling on what-ifs. What mattered was what happened next. "I need time," she said, "to think about all of this, to figure out what's best for Micah. Of course, take all the time you need. If there's any possibility of you being part of his life, it would have to be slow, careful. You would have to prove you can stick around." "I understand. I'm not talking about grand gestures or expensive gifts. I'm talking about showing up every time you say you will, being reliable, putting Micah first." "I can do that." "Can you? Really? Because if you start this and then disappear again, it won't just hurt me, it will hurt him, and I won't let anyone hurt my son." The fierceness in her voice surprised them both, but she meant every word. Micah was her whole world. She would protect him from anything, including his own father if necessary. "I won't disappear," Evan said. "I swear to you, Amara, I won't run again." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for any sign of uncertainty. She didn't find any. "I'll call you," she said, "if I decide to move forward. Don't contact me before then." "Okay." She stood up, gathering her purse. "This doesn't mean anything yet, Evan. This is just the beginning of thinking about it." "I know." "Good." She walked to the door without looking back, but she could feel his eyes on her, and for the first time in 7 years, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like hope, fragile and scary, but real. That afternoon, Amara sat at her kitchen table with a notebook and a cup of tea. Micah was at Nadia's salon, getting his hair cut and being spoiled by his aunt. She had 3 hours to herself, 3 hours to figure out if she was making the right choice. She drew a line down the middle of a blank page. On one side, she wrote, "Reasons to say no." On the other side, "Reasons to say yes." The no list filled up quickly. "He hurt us before. Micah is happy and secure now. What if he changes his mind again? Nadia thinks it's a bad idea. We don't need him. I don't trust him yet." The yes list was harder. Micah deserves to know his father. Evan seems genuinely changed. Everyone deserves a second chance. Micah has been asking about daddies. He looked sincere. The voicemail changes things. She stared at the lists for a long time. Logic said to protect what they had built. Heart said to take the risk. Her phone rang. "Nadia, how did it go?" "Better than expected. Worse than I hoped." "That makes no sense." "He's different, Nadia. Really different. But different doesn't mean safe." She told her sister about the conversation, about the therapy and the voicemail, and the way Evan had asked about Micah. "I still think you should be careful," Nadia said. "But I trust your judgment. You know him better than anyone. I knew who he used to be. I don't know who he is now." "Then find out, carefully." After she hung up, Amara looked at her lists again. Then she tore the page out and threw it away. This wasn't a decision that could be made with pros and cons. It was a decision that had to be made with her gut. She picked up her phone and started typing. "I'm willing to try. But we do this my way, at my pace, with my rules. If you can agree to that, we can talk about next steps." She hit send before she could change her mind. The response came quickly. "Yes. Whatever you think is best." She typed back, "I'll call you tomorrow with the details." Then she put her phone away and went to pick up her son. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, the way they always had, the way they always would. Wednesday evening felt different in Amara's small apartment. She had spent the day thinking about rules, about boundaries, about how to protect Micah while giving Evan a chance to prove himself. She sat at her kitchen table with a legal pad and a pen. Micah was in the living room, building a fort out of couch cushions and humming to himself. The sound made her smile, even with everything else spinning in her head. Her phone buzzed. A text from Evan. "I know you said you'd call with details, but I wanted you to know I'm ready to follow whatever plan you think is best. No rush. I'll wait. Simple. Patient. No pressure." It was a good start. She picked up her pen and started writing. A trial plan. 8 weeks of proof. Clear rules that left no room for confusion or disappointment. When she finished, she read it 3 times. Then she called Nadia. "I'm going to send you something," Amara said. "Tell me if I'm being crazy." "You're not crazy for wanting to protect your son. Send it." Amara took a picture of her handwritten rules and sent it to her sister. Her phone rang 2 minutes later. "This is good," Nadia said. Really good. You're not giving him anything he hasn't earned. And you're protecting Micah every step of the way. You think 8 weeks is long enough to tell if he's serious? If he can't stick to a schedule for 8 weeks, he's not ready to be a father. If he can, then maybe he's changed. After they hung up, Amara typed her rules into a text message. Trial plan. 8 weeks of proof. No cancellations, no excuses. You may deliver children's books for me to check first. You may meet me for brief walks in public places. No unscheduled contact. After 8 weeks of perfect consistency, 1 10-minute meeting with Micah. If you fail once, it ends. Do you agree? She sent it before she could change her mind. The response came within minutes. Thank you. I will honor every line. She taped a calendar to her refrigerator and wrote 8 weeks, proof, across the top. Tomorrow would be day 1. Saturday morning was crisp and clear. Amara sat on a bench at Seabreeze Park with her coffee and watched the path that circled the playground. It was 9:30. Evan was supposed to walk the path at 10 o'clock sharp, then leave books on the picnic table. She felt silly watching for him like he was some kind of criminal. But this was how trust got rebuilt. One small action at a time. Micah was on the swings, pumping his legs and trying to go higher than the other kids. He wore his new sneakers and a striped shirt that made him look older than 6. Push me, Mama, he called out. You're doing great on your own, she called back. Look how high you're getting. At exactly 10 o'clock, she saw a familiar figure walking down the path. Evan moved at a steady pace, not fast, not slow. He wore jeans and a clean t-shirt. He looked like any other person getting exercise on a Saturday morning. When he reached the picnic table, he set down a small brown paper bag. Then he continued walking. He didn't try to get closer to the playground, didn't wave or call out. He just followed the path until he was out of sight. Amara waited 5 minutes, then walked to the table. Inside the bag were 3 picture books, all in good condition, no torn pages. She recognized one of them, Where the Wild Things Are. It had been her favorite when she was little. What's that, Mama? Micah appeared beside her, sweaty and happy from the swings. Someone left some books, she said. Let's take them home and see if they're good stories. Who left them? She looked in the direction Evan had walked. A friend who likes books. That evening, she flipped through each book carefully. No hidden messages, nothing inappropriate, just good stories that any kid would enjoy. She put a check mark on the calendar. Day 1 showed up. Wednesday evening, 4 days later. Amara was at Nadia's salon when the overhead light started flickering. It had been acting up for weeks, making clients squint and complain. This thing is driving me crazy, Nadia said, trying to finish a cut while the light buzzed on and off. But an electrician costs too much right now. Amara was sweeping up hair when someone tapped on the window. Evan stood outside, holding a toolbox and looking uncertain. Amara had texted him that morning about the light, asking if he could take a look. It was the only exception she had made to her no-contact rule. Nadia needed help, and Evan was good with his hands. She unlocked the door. Thank you for coming, she said formally. No problem. He worked quietly and efficiently, found the loose wire that was causing the problem and fixed it safely. When he finished, the light was steady and bright. How much do I owe you? Nadia asked. Her voice was cool but not unfriendly. Nothing, Evan said, but here's the receipt for the wire I had to replace. He handed her a small piece of paper. $2.50. Nadia took the receipt and nodded. Thank you. Evan packed up his tools and left, without trying to start a conversation or ask about Micah. Professional and respectful. That night, Amara marked the calendar. Midweek help, no strings. She was surprised by how normal it had felt, like having a reliable friend who showed up when needed. The second Saturday brought rain, but Evan walked the park path anyway. Amara watched from her car as he left another bag of books on the covered picnic table. He was soaked by the time he finished his loop, but he didn't skip a step. The books that week included Corduroy and The Giving Tree. Micah especially loved the story about the little bear in the department store. Can we go see the toy bears sometime? He asked as Amara tucked him in. Maybe, she said. Would you like that? Yeah, and maybe we could bring one of these books to read there. She kissed his forehead and turned off the light. In the hallway, she marked the calendar. Day 8. Rain didn't stop him. By the third week, the routine felt less strange. Evan walked. Books appeared. The calendar filled with check marks. He sent 1 text per week, asking if the books were appropriate. Nothing more. Amara found herself relaxing despite her best efforts to stay alert for disappointment. Then came the Tuesday, when Micah's teacher sent home a note about a science project. Build a cardboard solar oven by Friday. Demonstrate how it works. Amara stared at the assignment, instructions, and felt overwhelmed. She was good at many things, but science projects weren't one of them. She worked late most evenings and barely had time for regular homework, let alone something that required cardboard cutting and thermometers. Before she could stop herself, she picked up her phone and texted Evan. Micah has a science project due Friday. Solar oven. Would you be willing to help? Thursday after work. Strict time limit. My apartment. The response came quickly. Yes. What time works for you? 6 to 7:30. No longer. I'll be there. Thursday evening arrived with Amara's nerves on edge. She had cleaned the apartment twice and rehearsed the ground rules in her head. This was about helping Micah, not about playing house or pretending they were a family. Evan arrived at exactly 6 o'clock with a small toolbox and a bag of supplies. He greeted Micah politely but didn't try to be overly friendly. Ready to build something cool? He asked. Micah nodded eagerly. They worked at the kitchen table with cardboard, aluminum foil, and black construction paper. Evan explained each step in simple terms, but he let Micah do most of the work. He was patient when Micah's cutting was crooked. He praised good effort, not just perfect results. Why does the foil go on the inside? Micah asked. Because shiny things reflect light, Evan said. Like a mirror. The foil bounces the sun's heat into the box to cook our food. What are we going to cook? How about a marshmallow? They tested the oven on the apartment balcony as the sun started to set. It wasn't hot enough to really cook anything, but the marshmallow got a little soft and gooey. Micah was thrilled. It worked, he announced. The sun cooked our marshmallow. You did a great job building it, Evan said. Your teacher is going to be impressed. At 7:25, Evan packed up his tools. Thank you, Amara said as she walked him to the door. He was really excited about this. He's a smart kid. Asks good questions. Yeah, he does. After Evan left, Micah chattered non-stop about solar ovens and reflected heat and whether they could make s'mores with sunlight. His excitement was infectious. I like when Evan explains stuff, Micah whispered as Amara read him his bedtime story. Me too, she said, when it's kind. That night, she marked the calendar with a different kind of note. Taught Micah something new, patient and gentle. The 5th Saturday was warm and sunny, perfect beach weather. Amara had planned to take Micah to the shore for a picnic, and on impulse, she had texted Evan asking if he wanted to join them. Controlled family time in a public place. They met at the beach park with sandwiches and juice boxes and sunscreen. Evan brought a cheap kite from the dollar store, bright red with a long yellow tail. I thought Micah might like to try flying it, he said. They spread a blanket on the sand and ate lunch while watching other families play in the waves. The conversation was careful, but not awkward. Evan asked Micah about school and listened to long stories about recess and the class hamster. After lunch, they worked together to get the kite in the air. Evan held the string while Micah ran, then gradually let Micah take control. The kite dipped and soared against the blue sky. I'm flying it by myself, Micah shouted with pure joy. The afternoon felt easy, natural, like something they might have done years ago if things had been different. When Micah got tired, he lay down on the blanket with his head on Evan's chest. Within minutes, he was asleep, one hand still clutching the kite string. Amara pulled out her phone to check the time and accidentally opened the camera. Without thinking, she took a picture. Micah peaceful and safe, Evan looking down at him with such tenderness it made her chest tight. She looked at the photo and felt something crack inside her heart. Not breaking, opening. He's amazing, Evan said quietly, careful not to wake Micah. He is. Thank you for this, for letting me be here. She almost said, you're welcome, almost let herself believe this could become their normal. Instead, she just nodded and put her phone away. Back home that evening, she looked at the photo again, favorited it, then unfavorited it. Too soon, then favorited it again. The calendar got its biggest checkmark yet. Beach day. He was gentle with Micah, natural and good. Sunday brought an unexpected invitation. Evan's mother wanted to meet them. You don't have to, Evan said when he called. But she asked, and I thought maybe. If you were comfortable. Amara surprised herself by saying yes. If Evan was going to be part of Micah's life, then Micah deserved to know his grandmother too. Marielle Hart's house was small but spotless. She had made brunch, pancakes, and fruit salad and coffee that smelled like heaven. She was nervous, Amara could tell, but trying hard to be welcoming. "You have beautiful eyes," she told Micah. "Just like your daddy's." Micah beamed at being called beautiful and dove into his pancakes with enthusiasm. Later, while Micah played in the backyard with Marielle's old dog, she pulled Amara aside. "Please don't rush him," Marielle said quietly. "Or yourself. Evan's trying so hard to be different, but change takes time. Real change." "I know," Amara said. "We're taking it slow." "Good. He's my son, and I love him. But I remember how he was before, scared and angry and running from everything. If he's really changed, it will show. If he hasn't," she trailed off. "If he hasn't, I'll protect Micah. I know you will. You're a good mother. Anyone can see that." Meanwhile, Nadia had cornered Evan by the kitchen sink. "If you ever disappear again," she said, in a voice low enough that Micah couldn't hear, "I will make sure you never get another chance. Are we clear?" "Yes," Evan said without getting defensive. "Crystal clear." "Good." The ride home was quiet except for Micah humming in the back seat. He clutched the kite handle from yesterday's beach trip and seemed perfectly content. Amara marked the calendar. Met family, realistic expectations. Micah happy. Monday evening brought the first real test. Amara was scrolling through social media when she saw it. A post from someone she barely remembered from high school. A snarky comment about deadbeat dads who suddenly want to play house, with a photo of her, Evan, and Micah at the beach that someone must have taken without them knowing. The post had been shared 3 times already. The comments were worse. "So now he wants to be a dad? Too little, too late if you ask me. That poor kid is going to get his heart broken." Amara's hands shook as she read each cruel comment. Her private life was being dissected by people who knew nothing about their situation, nothing about Evan's change or her careful rules or Micah's happiness. Her phone rang. It was Evan. "I saw the post," he said. "I'm sorry. I can step back publicly if this is going to hurt you or Micah." "No." The word came out stronger than she felt. "We don't make decisions based on gossip. We make them based on what's best for Micah." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Let them talk. They don't know our story." That night, she turned her phone face down and sat beside Micah as he read aloud from one of Evan's books. The outside world could say whatever it wanted. What mattered was the 3 of them figuring out how to be a family. But she didn't mark the calendar that day. The comments had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. Friday of the 5th week brought disaster. Evan was supposed to pick up supplies after work and meet them at the park for a 30-minute play session, their first official meeting with Micah since the beach. Amara had been nervous about it all week. At 5:50, 10 minutes before they were supposed to meet, her phone buzzed. Tire blew on Route 7. Photo attached. Calling tow truck and trying to catch a bus. Will be there as soon as possible. The photo showed Evan's truck on the side of the highway with a completely flat tire. He was clearly telling the truth about the emergency. But emergencies didn't matter. The rule was no cancellations, no excuses. She had been clear about that from the beginning. Amara sat in her car at the park with Micah, asking why they weren't getting out to play. At 6 o'clock exactly, she saw Evan running across the parking lot. His face was red from exertion, and he was breathing hard. "I'm sorry," he said as he reached their car. "The tire—" "You're 10 minutes late," Amara said. Her voice was steady but cold. "I know, but I tried everything. I ran to the bus stop and we established no slips." Evan stopped talking. He looked at her through the car window, and she saw the exact moment he understood that his trial was over. "I know," he said quietly. "You're right. The rule was clear." Micah pressed his face to the window. "Are we going to play?" Amara's heart broke as she looked at her son's eager face. "Not today, baby." Something came up. She rolled down the window just enough to speak to Evan. "Thank you for trying. But this ends here." Evan nodded. He stepped back from the car. "Bye, Micah," he said. "It was really good to meet you." "Bye," Micah said, confused but polite. As they drove away, Amara watched Evan in her rearview mirror. He stood in the parking lot watching them go. Behind him, a tow truck was hooking up his disabled truck. He had tried, really tried, but trying wasn't enough when it came to protecting her son's heart. At home, Micah asked why they had left so quickly. She told him that sometimes adults had to make difficult decisions to keep everyone safe. She didn't mark the calendar that night. Instead, she turned it face down on the refrigerator and cried in her bedroom where Micah couldn't hear. The trial was over. The next morning felt hollow, empty. Amara made breakfast and got Micah ready for his Saturday morning cartoons, but her heart wasn't in it. She kept thinking about the look on Evan's face when she drove away. Disappointed but not angry, accepting the consequences like he knew he deserved them. Part of her wondered if she had been too harsh. A flat tire really was an emergency. But the other part, the part that had spent 7 years protecting Micah from disappointment, knew she had made the right choice. The phone rang. It was Luis Ramos. "Miss Cole, this is Luis, Evan's foreman. I hope you don't mind me calling. How did you get my number? Evan gave it to me weeks ago, in case of emergency. He made me promise to call if anything ever happened that might make him late for one of your meetings." Amara's stomach dropped. "Why are you calling?" "Because something happened yesterday, and I think you should know about it. Evan turned down a chance to go out drinking with the crew last night. Said he had to stay home and read a book some little boy picked out for him. The guys laughed at him, but he didn't care." She was quiet. "He's been different this past month," Luis continued. "Focused, happy, like he found something he'd been looking for. I've seen men try to change before, Miss Cole. Most of them don't stick with it, but Evan has." "He was late yesterday," she said. "I know. I saw the tire. It was shredded, couldn't have been avoided. But I also saw him run 4 blocks to catch that bus. In work boots. He wanted to be there." After Luis hung up, Amara sat on her couch and stared at the turned-over calendar. Micah was building with blocks, humming the same tune he always hummed when he was content. "Mama," he said without looking up from his tower, "are we going to get more books?" "What books, baby?" "The ones that friend leaves at the park. I liked those books." Her heart squeezed. Micah had noticed the books, had been looking forward to them. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Can you ask him to bring more?" That afternoon, while Micah napped, Amara called Nadia. "I think I made a mistake," she said. "What kind of mistake?" She told her sister about the flat tire and Luis's phone call, and the way Evan had accepted her decision without arguing. "One mistake shouldn't erase weeks of doing everything right," Nadia said after thinking about it. "Maybe you should give him another chance." "You think so? You were the one who said to be careful. I also said I trust your judgment. And my judgment says that man has been trying his heart out for over a month. People get flat tires, Amara. That's not the same as choosing to disappear." That evening, Amara drafted a new message. Shorter rules this time. A grace period for genuine emergencies. Public meetings only. Time limits. Clear expectations. If you still want to try, here's a revised plan. Different rules this time. Are you interested? She sent it along with the new guidelines and waited. The response came an hour later. "Thank you. I accept every word." She turned the calendar right side up and wrote, "Second chance," across a fresh week. Sometimes the bravest thing wasn't protecting what you had. Sometimes it was risking what you had for something better. Saturday afternoon found them at the mini golf course. Neutral territory with lots of families around. Safe, but fun. Micah was terrible at golf, which made him giggle instead of frustrated. Evan let him win 2 holes by missing easy putts, then showed him how to line up a shot properly. "See how the ball wants to go toward the hole?" Evan said, crouching behind Micah to guide his hands. "You just have to give it a gentle push in the right direction." Micah's ball rolled slowly across the green and knocked into the cup with a satisfying plunk. "I did it," Micah shouted. "Did you see that?" "I saw it," Amara said, taking a picture with her phone. "Great job, buddy." They played all 18 holes, with ice cream cones afterward. Evan handled Micah's spilled chocolate with patience, cleaning it up without fuss, while Micah chatted about windmills and waterfalls and whether pirates ever played mini-golf. As they walked back to the parking lot, Evan pulled a small envelope from his pocket. "For next time," he said, handing it to Micah, "in case a grown-up gets stuck again." Inside was a bus pass and a small book about transportation. "There's always another way to show up," Evan told Micah. "Sometimes you just have to think harder about how to get there." The message was for Amara as much as for her son. Evan was promising to be more prepared next time, to have backup plans, to never use an emergency as an excuse to disappoint them. That night, she marked the new calendar. Second chance going well. He's learning, Outside her window, the sun was setting behind the mini golf course in the distance. Tomorrow was another day, another chance to build something good together, one careful step at a time. The next 2 weeks passed like a gentle dream. Evan showed up exactly when he said he would. He brought thoughtful books and patient answers to Micah's endless questions. He helped Amara carry groceries without being asked. He remembered that Micah was allergic to strawberries and that Amara took her coffee with extra cream. Small things, steady things. The kind of reliability that felt almost too good to be true. On a sunny Wednesday evening, Amara found herself looking forward to seeing Evan instead of just tolerating his presence. The shift surprised her. When had fear become hope? When had his smile started to feel familiar instead of dangerous? She didn't have answers. She just knew that something was changing in her heart, whether she wanted it to or not. Sunday brought an invitation that made Amara's stomach flutter with nerves. "Nadia wants to have dinner," she told Evan during their weekly check-in call. "All of us. You, me, Micah. She wants to talk. Good talk or scary talk. With Nadia, it's always scary talk, but maybe good scary this time." They met at a family restaurant with high chairs and crayons and a kids' menu shaped like a dinosaur. Neutral ground, where even difficult conversations had to stay civilized. Nadia arrived, looking like she meant business. Hair perfect, makeup sharp, wearing the kind of smile that could cut glass if you got too close. "Evan," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "We need to have a conversation." "Aunt Nadia." Micah threw himself at her with the pure joy of a 6-year-old who hadn't seen his favorite person in 3 whole days. "Guess what? I learned how to make the kite go really high." "Did you?" Nadia's smile went soft and real as she hugged him. "Tell me everything." They ordered food and made small talk while Micah colored his dinosaur menu, but Amara could feel the real conversation waiting like a storm cloud. When their meals arrived and Micah was busy with chicken nuggets, Nadia leaned forward and looked Evan straight in the eye. "Why should he trust you when you didn't trust him to exist?" she asked quietly. The question hit like a slap. Amara started to interrupt, but Evan held up a gentle hand. "Because trust is earned by my next choice, not yesterday's fear," he said. "If I fail again, you cut me off. But if I don't fail, then maybe he gets to have a father who learned how to stay." Nadia studied his face for a long moment. "And if you get scared again? If being a parent turns out to be harder than you thought? Then I deal with being scared without running away. That's what therapy taught me. Fear doesn't have to control my choices anymore. What if Amara decides she doesn't want you in their lives permanently? What if you're just a temporary thing?" Evan glanced at Amara, then back at Nadia. "Then I accept that and be grateful for whatever time I got. I'm not here to demand anything. I'm here to earn whatever they're willing to give." Nadia ate her salad in silence for a minute, thinking. Finally, she nodded. "Okay," she said. "I can work with that." The tension at the table eased like air going out of a balloon. Micah, who had been quietly listening while pretending to color, looked up with relief. "Are you done with the scary talking?" he asked. "We're done," Nadia said, ruffling his hair. "Want to come to my salon this weekend and help me organize the nail polish? Can Evan come too?" Everyone at the table went still. Micah's question hung in the air like a bridge waiting to be crossed. "If your mama says it's okay," Nadia said carefully. Amara looked at her son's hopeful face, at Evan's careful expression, at her sister's worried eyes. "We'll see," she said. "Maybe." It was the first time anyone had suggested Evan joining their extended family activities. The idea should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like another door opening in her heart. That Saturday found all 4 of them at Nadia's salon after hours. Micah sat at the nail polish station, organizing bottles by color, while the adults cleaned and reorganized. Evan swept floors without being asked. Nadia watched him work with the sharp eyes of someone who had seen too many men disappoint the women she loved. "You're good at this," she said when Evan finished mopping the back room. "Cleaning, showing up, being useful, not making everything about you." Evan set the mop in its bucket and smiled. "Luis taught me that. He said the best way to help someone is to pay attention to what they actually need, not what you think they should need." "Smart man. The smartest." Micah appeared at Evan's elbow, holding a bottle of bright pink nail polish. "Nadia says, I can paint 1 fingernail if I want. Will you paint one too?" "Paint my fingernail pink." "Uh-huh. So we match." Evan looked at Amara, who shrugged with a small smile. "Your choice." 10 minutes later, Both Evan and Micah had matching pink pinkies. Micah was delighted. Evan looked slightly bewildered, but happy. "Now we're nail polish twins," Micah announced. "I guess we are," Evan said, admiring his bright pink fingernail with appropriate seriousness. Nadia caught Amara's eye and smiled. Real approval, not just protective tolerance. Maybe this was going to work after all. The following week brought Micah's school open house. Parents were invited to see their children's work and meet their teachers. It was the kind of event Amara usually attended alone, taking pictures to show Micah later and trying not to feel envious of the two-parent families. This year felt different. When Evan asked if he could come, she surprised herself by saying yes. They walked through the elementary school hallways together, following the smell of apple juice and the sound of children's laughter. Micah ran ahead, eager to show them his desk and his drawings and the class hamster, who lived in a cage by the window. "This is my solar oven," Micah told his teacher, Mrs. Patterson. "Evan helped me build it, but I did most of the work myself." "It's wonderful," Mrs. Patterson said. "And who is Evan?" Micah looked back at the two adults following him. For a moment, Amara held her breath, wondering what he would say. Micah paused, thinking. "He's my friend, who knows about science. Simple, true, perfect for where they were right now." They looked at art projects and reading charts and a bulletin board full of essays about my hero. Micah's essay was about firefighters, but he had drawn a picture of himself holding hands with two stick figures, one with long hair, one with short hair. "That's my family," he explained to everyone who would listen. "We fly kites together." In the hallway afterward, another parent stopped them, someone from Micah's class. "Are you Micah's parents?" the woman asked. "I'm Jake's mom. The boys are friends." "I'm his mother," Amara said carefully. "This is Evan. Nice to meet you both. Micah talks about flying kites all the time. Jake is very jealous." They made polite conversation about play dates and school events. The woman treated them like any normal family, and Amara realized that's what they looked like from the outside. A mom, a dad, and their son. The thought should have scared her. Instead, it filled her with unexpected warmth. Later that week, Evan's mother, Marielle, stopped by Amara's apartment unexpectedly. She brought a casserole and a nervous smile. "I hope you don't mind," she said. "I was making extra and thought you might enjoy a night off from cooking." They sat in Amara's small living room while Micah played with blocks nearby. Marielle looked around at the photos on the walls, the neat stacks of books, the evidence of a good life built by careful hands. "You've done a beautiful job raising him," Marielle said quietly. "Evan shows me pictures sometimes. I hope that's okay. Micah always looks so happy." "He is happy," Amara said. "He's a good kid. He gets that from you." Marielle paused, choosing her words carefully. "I want you to know, I see the change in my son. He's peaceful now, like he finally found what he was looking for." "People can change," Amara said. "Some people, not everyone, but Evan has." Marielle reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. "I wanted to give you this. It was Evan's father's ring. He asked me to hold on to it until he earned the right to offer it properly." Amara's breath caught. "Mrs. Hart, I can't. I'm not asking you to take it. I'm asking you to know that it exists, that he's thinking about forever, not just right now." The box sat between them on the coffee table, like a promise waiting to be made. "We're taking things slow," Amara said. "Good, that's exactly what you should do. But when you're ready, if you're ready, know that this family wants you in it, both of you, for keeps." After Marielle left, Amara stared at the small box for a long time. Then she put it in her bedroom drawer, next to the calendar where she tracked Evan's consistency. Someday, maybe, but not yet. They still had more trust to build, more ordinary days to stack up like bricks in a foundation. The crisis came on a Thursday evening when everything seemed to be going perfectly. Amara was working late at the dental office, catching up on insurance paperwork. Micah was at after-school care, and Evan was supposed to pick him up at 6 o'clock. They had done this routine 3 times before without problems. At 6:15, her phone rang. The school's number. "Miss Cole? This is Jennifer from Sunshine Care. Micah is still here, and we haven't heard from his pickup person." Amara's blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "Evan should have been there 15 minutes ago. No one's come for him. Micah is fine, but we need someone here by 6:30, or we'll have to call emergency services. I'm on my way." Amara's hands shook as she grabbed her purse and ran to her car. Traffic was heavy, and every red light felt like torture. She tried calling Evan 5 times. No answer. Where was he? What had happened? Had he changed his mind? Had he decided being a father was too hard after all? She made it to the school at exactly 6:29. Micah sat in the office with a teacher, looking small and confused. "Mama." He ran to her with relief. "Where's Evan? He was supposed to pick me up." "I don't know, baby, but I'm here now." They drove home in heavy silence. Amara's mind raced through possibilities. Car accident, work, emergency, family, crisis, or the worst possibility of all, that Evan had simply run away again, leaving Micah to wonder why he wasn't worth staying for. At home, she made Micah dinner and helped him with homework, checking her phone every 5 minutes. Still no call, no text, no explanation. By 8 o'clock, when Micah was ready for bed, Amara was furious and terrified in equal measure. "Is Evan okay?" Micah asked as she tucked him in. "I'm sure he's fine," she lied. "Sometimes grown-ups have emergencies that make them late. Like when his tire broke, maybe like that. But this felt different. A flat tire came with immediate communication and visible proof. This was just absence, the kind of disappearing that had haunted her nightmares for 7 years. She kissed Micah goodnight and went to her own room, where she stared at the phone and tried to decide whether to be worried or angry. Both emotions warred in her chest until she felt sick. At 9:30, her doorbell rang. She looked through the peephole and saw Luis Ramos standing on her porch, his face grim and tired. She opened the door. "Where is he?" "Hospital," Luis said. "He's okay, but there was an accident at the job site. Beam fell and caught his leg. He's been in surgery for 3 hours." Amara's anger evaporated, replaced by sharp fear. "Surgery? Broken bones, but nothing permanent." "He'll be fine." Luis pulled out his phone. "He's been trying to call you, but they took his phone when they brought him in. He gave the nurses your number, but the hospital had it wrong somehow. 1 digit off." He showed her his phone. 7 missed calls from Evan, all going to voicemail because Luis had been at the hospital. "He's been going crazy," Luis continued. "Not about his leg, about Micah, about letting you down. The first thing he said when he woke up from surgery was, 'Did someone get Micah?'" Amara sank onto her porch step, the adrenaline of the evening finally catching up with her. "I thought he left. I thought he ran away again. That boy isn't going anywhere. Trust me." I had to physically hold him down to stop him from trying to leave the hospital to explain in person. The hospital at 10 o'clock at night was all harsh lights and antiseptic smells. Evan was in room 314, his left leg elevated and wrapped in bandages. His face was pale from pain medication, but his eyes went bright with relief when he saw her. "Amara." "Oh, thank God. Is Micah okay? Did you get him?" "I've been trying to call." "He's fine," she said, cutting him off. "He's home asleep. I'm so sorry." The beam came down out of nowhere, and then everything was chaos, and my phone got crushed, and they wouldn't let me leave. "Evan, stop." She sat in the chair beside his bed. Luis explained everything. "I broke my promise. I said I'd pick him up and I didn't. You were unconscious. That doesn't matter. He was waiting for me and I wasn't there." The pain in his voice had nothing to do with his broken leg. This was the deeper hurt of a man who knew what it felt like to be abandoned by a father. "It matters to me," Amara said quietly. "The fact that you're more worried about Micah than about your own injury tells me everything I need to know about who you are now." Evan's eyes filled with tears. "I was so scared you'd think I ran away again, that you'd never let me near him after this." "I did think that, for about an hour. Then Luis showed up, and I realized I was being an idiot." "You weren't being an idiot. You were protecting your son from getting hurt. That's what good mothers do." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the beep of machines and the distant sound of nurses making rounds. "How bad is the leg?" Amara asked. 2 breaks, but clean ones. I'll be on crutches for 6 weeks, then physical therapy. Should be good as new by Christmas." "Good." She paused. "Micah's going to want to visit you." He was worried. "You'd let him come here?" "Evan, you got hurt doing your job. You didn't disappear or choose something else over him. There's a big difference." The relief on his face was so profound it made her chest tight. He had been genuinely terrified that this accident would end everything they had built together. "Thank you," he whispered, "for understanding, for giving me the benefit of the doubt. That's what people do when they trust each other." The word hung between them. Trust. Real trust. not just careful hope. They had crossed a line tonight, not because of grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but because when crisis hit, they had both chosen to believe the best of each other instead of the worst. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Evan couldn't drive with his leg in a cast, so Amara picked him up for their regular outings. He moved more slowly but with the same steady patience. He let Micah sign his cast with bright green marker and taught him how to play card games that didn't require running around. "Does it hurt?" Micah asked one afternoon as they sat at Amara's kitchen table playing Go Fish. "A little, but it's getting better every day. I'm glad you're okay. I was scared when you didn't come to school. I was scared too, not about being hurt, but about you thinking I forgot about you." Micah considered this seriously. "I knew you didn't forget. Mama said sometimes bad things happen, but it doesn't mean people don't love you." Evan's eyes met Amara's across the table. Love. The word had been dancing around the edges of their conversations for weeks, but none of them had said it out loud yet. "Your mama's very smart," Evan said. "I know," Micah replied matter-of-factly. "Do you have any sevens?" "Go Fish." Amara watched them play and felt something settle in her chest. This was what family looked like. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real and steady and good. On Saturday afternoon, while Evan napped on her couch with his leg elevated, Amara and Nadia sat at the kitchen table with coffee and the hard conversation they'd been avoiding. "So what happens now?" Nadia asked. "He's been here almost every day for 3 weeks. Micah asks about him when he's not around. You smile differently when you talk about him." "I don't smile differently. You absolutely smile differently. Like you remember what it feels like to be happy instead of just content." Amara stirred her coffee and considered her sister's words. It was true. The careful walls she had built around her heart had been slowly coming down, brick by brick. "I think I love him," she said quietly. "Both of them. The man he is now and the man he's becoming. And that scares you, terrifies me." "Good. If it didn't scare you, it wouldn't be real." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to Micah's quiet chatter from the living room, where he was building something elaborate with blocks near Evan's sleeping form. "He wants to talk to Micah about being his dad," Amara said. "Not just Evan. Dad. What do you think?" "I think Micah's been waiting his whole life for someone to want that title, and I think Evan's been waiting his whole life to be worthy of it." "Then what's stopping you?" Amara didn't have a good answer. Fear, maybe. Old habits of protection. The part of her that still couldn't quite believe this was real and lasting. But as she watched Micah carefully place a blanket over Evan's shoulders, she realized that love wasn't about being certain. It was about being brave enough to choose trust, even when the outcome wasn't guaranteed. "Nothing's stopping me," she said. "I'm just working up the courage." Nadia reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Take your time, but not too much time. That man's been patient, but he's also been waiting 7 years to be Micah's father. Don't make him wait forever." Sunday evening brought the conversation Amara had been both dreading and anticipating. Evan's cast was off, his leg was healing well, and they had settled into a routine that felt less like testing and more like living. They sat on her front porch while Micah played in the small yard, chasing fireflies as the sun set behind the trees. "I want to talk about what we're doing here," Amara said. Evan's face went carefully neutral. "Okay. Not the rules or the schedules. The bigger thing, what we are, what we're becoming. What do you think we're becoming?" She watched Micah catch a firefly in his cupped hands, then open them to watch it blink and fly away. "A family," she said. "Not the kind we started with, but the kind we're choosing to build. Is that what you want?" "I want Micah to have a father who shows up. I want to have a partner who stays when things get hard. I want to believe in forever again." "And do you? Believe in forever?" She turned to look at him directly. His face was open and hopeful and a little scared. "With you? Yes, I think I do." The smile that spread across his features was like sunrise, pure and warm and new. "There's something I need to ask Micah," he said, "about what he wants to call me, about whether he's ready for me to be his dad officially." "I know, he's ready. He's been ready since that first day at the mall. And you? Are you ready?" Amara thought about the ring in her bedroom drawer, about the calendar on her refrigerator full of check marks and small victories, about the way Micah's face lit up when Evan walked in the room, about the way her heart had finally learned to hope again. "Ask me tomorrow," she said, "after you talk to Micah. Is that a yes?" "That's a maybe that's feeling more like a Yes, every day. Evan reached for her hand, and she let him take it. They sat in comfortable quiet, watching their son chase light in the gathering dusk, and Amara thought about how sometimes the best things came not from perfect plans, but from the courage to keep building something good, one day at a time. Tomorrow, they would have the conversation that would change everything. Tonight, they were just a woman and a man and a little boy who had found each other again, learning how to be a family in the gentle space between sunset and stars. Monday morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming through Amara's kitchen windows. She made coffee and watched Micah eat his cereal, trying not to let her nervous energy show. Today was the day Evan would ask Micah about being his dad. Really, officially, forever. "Is Evan coming over today?" Micah asked between bites of Lucky Charms. "After school. He wants to talk to you about something important. Good important or scary important? Good important, but big important too." Micah nodded seriously. At 6 years old, he understood that some conversations changed everything. "Mama? Yes, baby? I already know what he wants to ask me." Amara's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. "You do? He wants to know if he can be my dad. Not just Evan, my actual dad." "How do you know that?" Micah shrugged with the matter-of-fact wisdom of childhood. "Because he acts like a dad. He fixes things and teaches me stuff and worries about me when I'm sad. That's what dads do, right? That's exactly what dads do. So when he asks me, I'm going to say yes. Is that okay?" Amara's chest filled with so much love and pride, she could barely breathe. Her son, who had never had a father figure, somehow knew exactly what good parenting looked like when he saw it. "That's very okay," she said softly. "That's the most okay thing in the world." Evan arrived at 3:30, just as Amara was getting home from work. He looked nervous but determined, carrying a small wrapped package under his arm. "Is that for me?" Micah asked, bouncing on his toes with excitement. "It is. But first, we need to have that talk I mentioned." They sat in the living room, Evan and Micah on the couch, Amara in the chair nearby. The afternoon light made everything feel golden and important. "Micah," Evan began, his voice gentle but serious, "I want to ask you something, and I want you to know there's no wrong answer. You can take as much time as you need to think about it." "Okay. I've been thinking a lot about families and what they mean. About how some families start one way and some families start another way. And I've been thinking about how much I care about you and your mama." Micah listened with the complete attention he usually reserved for dinosaur documentaries. "I know I wasn't here when you were little," Evan continued. "I made some bad choices that I can't take back. But I'm here now, and I want to be here for everything that comes next. School plays and soccer games and teaching you to drive someday. All of it. Like a dad would do? Exactly like a dad would do. Which brings me to my question." Evan took a deep breath. "Would you like me to be your dad? Not just Evan who hangs out with you sometimes, but your actual dad, who loves you forever?" Micah was quiet for a moment, thinking it over with the seriousness it deserved. Then his face broke into the biggest smile Amara had ever seen. "Yes," he said firmly. "I would like that very much." "Are you sure? It's a big decision." "I'm sure. You already feel like my dad. Now it would just be official." Evan's eyes filled with tears. He pulled Micah into a hug that lifted the little boy off the couch. "Thank you," Evan whispered. "Thank you for giving me the chance to be your dad." "Thank you for wanting to be my dad," Micah said against his shoulder. Amara watched from her chair and cried happy tears she didn't try to hide. This was the moment she had hoped for and feared in equal measure. The moment her son chose his father and his father chose him back. "Can I open my present now?" Micah asked when they finally let go of each other. "Absolutely." Inside the package was a small photo album. On the cover, Evan had written, "Dad and Micah, our story starts now." The first page had the picture from the beach, with Micah sleeping on Evan's chest. The rest of the pages were blank, waiting to be filled. "We'll fill it together," Evan said. "All the adventures we're going to have. Can we start today? What did you have in mind? Can we go fly the kite? And can Mama take pictures?" Evan looked at Amara, who nodded through her tears. "Yes," Evan said. "We can definitely do that." An hour later, they were at the beach park, where it all began. The same place where they had shared their first real family moment all those weeks ago. The red kite danced against the blue sky, and Micah ran in circles holding the string with pure joy. "Higher, Dad," he shouted. "Make it go higher." "Dad," The word came so naturally it was like he'd been saying it forever. Amara sat on their blanket taking pictures, while Evan and Micah worked together to catch the wind. When they finally got the kite steady and high, both of them flopped down on the sand, breathless and laughing. "That was awesome," Micah announced. "Being your kid is going to be great." "Being your dad is already great," Evan said. They spent the afternoon building sandcastles and collecting shells and eating ice cream that dripped down their fingers. Normal family activities that felt extraordinary because they were finally, officially, a family. As the sun started to set, Micah curled up between them on the blanket, tired and sandy, and completely content. "This is the best day ever," he said sleepily. "It really is," Amara agreed. Evan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, the same one his mother had shown her weeks ago. "There's one more thing," he said quietly. Amara's heart stopped. She had known this was coming, but knowing and being ready were two different things. "Amara Cole," Evan said, his voice steady despite the nervousness in his eyes. "7 years ago, I was too scared to be the man you deserved. But every day since then has been about becoming someone worthy of you and Micah." Micah sat up, suddenly very awake. "Are you asking Mama to marry you?" "I am. If she wants me to. Do you want him to?" "Mama?" Amara looked at her son's hopeful face, then at Evan's patient one. Two people who had taught her how to trust again, how to hope again, how to believe in forever. "Yes," she said simply. "I do." Evan opened the box to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. Nothing flashy or complicated, just a promise made solid. "This isn't about making up for lost time," he said as he slipped it on her finger. "This is about all the time we have left, all the ordinary days and extraordinary moments we're going to share." "I love you," Amara said, and meant it with every cell in her body. "I love you too, both of you, forever." Micah threw his arms around both of them in a group hug that knocked them over on the blanket. They lay there laughing in the sand as the kite continued to fly overhead, steady and bright against the darkening sky. 3 months later, on a crisp Saturday morning in December, Amara woke up to the sound of voices in the kitchen, Evan's low rumble and Micah's excited chatter, mixed with the smell of pancakes and coffee. She pulled on her robe and padded to the kitchen, where she found her boys, her husband and her son, covered in flour and trying to flip pancakes that were definitely too big for the pan. "Morning, beautiful," Evan said, kissing her cheek. "We're making breakfast." "So I see. How's it going?" "The first 3 were disasters," Micah reported cheerfully. "But this one looks like it might actually be a pancake." "Progress," Amara said solemnly. They had been married for 6 weeks now, a small ceremony at the beach park with just family and close friends. Micah had been Evan's best man and had taken the job very seriously, holding the rings and making sure everyone knew this was the best wedding ever. Their life together was beautifully ordinary. Mornings like this one, with sticky syrup and newspaper comics and arguments about whether superhero cartoons were appropriate breakfast television, school pickups and grocery runs and bedtime stories read in 3 different voices. Evan had moved into the apartment, and they were looking for a house with a yard big enough for a swing set. Somewhere Micah could have friends over, and they could host holiday dinners and build the kind of memories that lasted generations. "Dad, the pancake's burning," Micah said. "Right. Crisis management." Evan flipped the pancake with more enthusiasm than skill, sending it flying across the kitchen. "I think we need backup," Amara said, laughing. "No way," Evan said. "We've got this. Right, buddy?" "Right," Micah agreed. "We're pancake experts now." They were not pancake experts, but they were experts at something more important. They were experts at showing up for each other, at choosing love over fear, at building something good together, one day at a time. Later that morning, while Evan and Micah attempted to clean up their flour disaster, Amara's phone rang. It was Nadia. "How's married life?" her sister asked. "Messy," Amara said, watching Evan try to sweep flour with a dish towel while Micah helped by spreading it around more evenly. "Perfect." "Good. That's what it should be. How are things with you?" "Good. Busy. Oh, and I have news. Remember that guy I met at your wedding? Luis's nephew? The cute one who kept asking you to dance? That's the one. We're going out next Friday." "Nadia, that's wonderful. Don't get too excited. It's just dinner. But he seems nice, and after watching you and Evan, I'm thinking maybe I'm ready to trust someone again too." After they hung up, Amara thought about how love had a way of spreading, how one family's healing could give other people hope, how courage was sometimes contagious. "Mama, come see," Micah called from the kitchen. "We made you something." She walked back to find a perfectly round pancake with blueberries arranged in a smiley face. "It's beautiful," she said, and meant it. "Dad showed me how to make the eyes even," Micah said proudly. "Your dad's pretty smart." "Yeah, he is, and he's getting really good at being my dad." "What makes you say that?" Micah thought about it seriously. "Because when I was sad about the spelling test yesterday, he didn't try to fix it. He just sat with me until I felt better. That's what good dads do." Amara met Evan's eyes over Micah's head. He had learned not just how to stay, but how to love, how to be present without trying to control everything, how to let people feel their feelings while offering comfort instead of solutions. "You're right," she said. "That's exactly what good dads do." That afternoon, they drove to the beach park one more time, the same place where their story had really begun, where trust had been rebuilt, one conversation at a time. The December air was crisp but not cold, and the beach was nearly empty, perfect for flying kites without worrying about bumping into other families. They had brought the same red kite from that first day. It was a little worn now, the tail slightly frayed from months of adventures, but it still flew true and steady. "Can I hold the string by myself?" Micah asked as they worked to get the kite up in the wind. "Sure," Evan said, "but let's all hold it together first, like we did at the beginning." The three of them stood with their hands on the kite string, feeling the pull of the wind and the weight of everything they had built together. Amara looked at her husband and her son and thought about how families came in all different shapes, how the best ones weren't necessarily the ones that started perfectly, but the ones that chose to keep growing together. "Ready?" Evan asked. "Ready," Micah said. They let out more line, and the kite climbed higher against the blue December sky, steady and bright and free. "Look how high it's going," Micah laughed, running a few steps to keep the tension right. "That's because we're all working together," Amara said. "Like a team," Micah agreed. "Like a family," Evan added. They flew the kite until the sun started to set, taking turns with the string and teaching Micah how to read the wind. When it was time to go, they reeled it in together, each hand touching the others on the string. As they walked back to the car, Micah skipped ahead with the kite tucked under his arm like a prized possession. "Thank you," Evan said quietly to Amara. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance, for believing I could change, for letting me be his dad. Thank you for becoming someone worth believing in." "Do you ever regret it?" "Taking the risk?" Amara thought about all the ways this could have gone wrong, all the fears she had overcome and all the walls she had let down, all the ordinary moments that had added up to something extraordinary. "Never," she said firmly. "Not for a single second." They reached the car just as the last light faded from the sky. Micah climbed into his car seat, chattering about the next time they could come back to fly the kite. Evan loaded their things into the trunk, while Amara buckled Micah in. "Dad," Micah said as Evan started the car. "Yeah, buddy? I'm glad you came back. I'm glad you let me. I'm glad we're a family now." "Me too, kiddo. Me too." As they drove home through the quiet streets, Amara watched the lights in the houses they passed, other families settling in for the evening, other people choosing love and trust, and the daily work of building something good together. Their own house was small and imperfect, but it was full of laughter and books and the kind of ordinary magic that made a place feel like home. Tomorrow there would be more pancakes to burn, and homework to help with, and bedtime stories to read. More ordinary days in their beautifully imperfect life. But tonight, they were just a woman and a man and a little boy who had found each other again, who had learned that love wasn't about perfect beginnings, but about the courage to keep choosing each other, one day at a time. The kite was safe in the trunk, waiting for their next adventure, and ahead of them stretched all the days they would spend learning how to be a family. Not the family they had started as, but the family they had chosen to become. In the rearview mirror, the beach disappeared behind them, but the promise they had made there, to show up, to stay, to love each other through ordinary days and extraordinary challenges, that promise would last forever. Some stories ended with grand gestures and dramatic declarations. This one ended with the quiet certainty of three hands on a kite string, holding steady against the wind, flying true and bright together toward home. Epilogue. 1 year later, Amara stood in the kitchen of their new house, watching through the window as Evan taught Micah how to ride a bicycle in their backyard. The training wheels had come off that morning, and both father and son were determined to master this milestone before dinner. "I've got you," Evan called, jogging alongside the wobbling bike. "You're doing great. Don't let go," Micah shouted back, equal parts terrified and thrilled. "I won't let go until you're ready." Amara smiled as she finished making lemonade for the inevitable break they would need. The house around her was still mostly boxes and half-hung pictures, but it already felt like home. 3 bedrooms, a big kitchen, and a yard perfect for kite flying. On the refrigerator, held up with magnets shaped like dinosaurs, was Micah's latest school photo. His gap-toothed grin was identical to Evan's, and his eyes sparkled with the confidence of a child who knew he was deeply loved by both his parents. Next to the photo was their wedding picture from the beach, the 3 of them laughing in the sand, the red kite visible in the background. It had been framed and given a place of honor in their new home. "Mama," Micah's voice carried through the open window. "Come see, I rode all by myself." She looked out to see Micah pedaling in slightly wobbly circles, while Evan cheered from the sideline. Her son's face was pure joy, and her husband's expression was nothing but pride and love. "That's amazing, sweetheart," she called back. "Keep practicing." Her phone buzzed with a text from Nadia, who was now officially dating Luis's nephew and had never been happier. Asterisk. "How's the new house?" Asterisk. Asterisk. "Perfect chaos." Asterisk. Amara typed back. Asterisk. "Home." Asterisk. Asterisk. "Good. That's what it should be." Asterisk. She set her phone aside and carried the lemonade outside to her boys. Her family. The one they had built together through patience and trust, and the daily choice to love each other well. "Dad, watch this," Micah called, attempting a turn that was far too ambitious for his skill level. "Careful, buddy," Evan said, but he was laughing as he moved to spot the inevitable tumble. Amara set the lemonade on their new patio table and watched her husband catch their son just before a spectacular crash. Both of them dissolved into giggles, and she realized that this ordinary moment of protection and laughter and love, this was everything she had ever wanted. 7 years ago, Evan had walked out of her life in fear. Today, he was here to catch their son when he fell. The difference between those 2 moments was the distance of a lifetime of growth and the proof that people really could change if they wanted it badly enough. "Lemonade break?" she called. "Yes, please," Micah said, abandoning his bike and running to her with arms wide open. "Did you see me ride by myself?" "I saw everything," she said, catching him in a hug. "You were amazing. Dad says tomorrow we can practice riding to the end of the street." "That sounds like a plan." Evan walked over and wrapped his arms around both of them. A perfect family sandwich, sticky with summer and sweet with possibility. "Thank you," he murmured against the top of Amara's head. "For what this time? For this, all of it, for believing in second chances and building something beautiful with me. Thank you for becoming someone worth believing in." "Again?" Micah asked, looking up at them with exaggerated exasperation. "You two are always thanking each other. We're family. That's what families do." He was right, of course. With the wisdom that sometimes came from the mouths of 7-year-olds, he had summed up everything they had learned. Families showed up. Families stayed. Families chose love over fear, again and again, until it became as natural as breathing. That evening, after dinner and baths and stories, Amara tucked Micah into his new bedroom. The walls were covered with glow-in-the-dark stars that Evan had spent an hour carefully arranging in actual constellation patterns. "I like our new house," Micah said sleepily. "I'm glad. What do you like best about it?" "It has room for all of us, and the kitchen is big enough that when Dad burns pancakes, the smoke doesn't set off the fire alarm." Amara laughed. "Those are very practical considerations, and my bedroom window faces the backyard so I can see the tree where we're going to hang a tire swing." "Dad promised you a tire swing?" "Yep, this weekend. And he always keeps his promises now." "Yes," Amara thought as she kissed his forehead. "He always keeps his promises now." She turned off the light and went to join Evan on their back porch. He was sitting on the steps, looking up at the real stars that matched the ones they had put on their son's ceiling. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, settling beside him. "Just thinking about how different things are now. How different I am. Good different, the best different. A year ago, I was just a guy who showed up to fly kites sometimes. Now I'm a husband and a father, and I get to wake up every day knowing I belong somewhere. You've always belonged with us. It just took a while for all of us to figure it out." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of their neighborhood settling in for the night. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. A screen door slammed. The ordinary sounds of ordinary lives being lived with ordinary love. Evan? Yeah? I'm proud of you. Not just for changing, but for doing the work to stay changed. For choosing us every single day. Choosing you is the easiest thing I've ever done. It's everything else that takes work. But you do the work. I do the work. Above them, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, the same constellations that had watched over families for thousands of years, the same stars that would shine on their sons' children someday, and their children's children, carrying forward the love that had been rebuilt here, in this place. Between these people, one choice at a time. Should we go in? Amara asked as the air grew cooler. In a minute. I just want to look at this a little longer. At what? At everything. The house, the yard where our son is learning to be brave, the life we built together. I want to remember what it feels like to have everything I never thought I deserved. You deserve it, she said firmly. You've earned every bit of it. We all have. They finally went inside, turning off lights and checking locks and doing all the ordinary things that ordinary families did at the end of ordinary days. But as they fell asleep in their new bedroom, with the sound of their son's peaceful breathing drifting down the hall, Amara knew there was nothing ordinary about the love they had fought for and won. Some love stories began with lightning strikes and grand romantic gestures. Theirs had begun with a little boy returning lost keys and calling a stranger Daddy in the middle of a crowded mall. It was a love story built on small daily choices, consistent actions, and the revolutionary idea that people could change if they wanted to badly enough. It was a love story about second chances and the courage to trust again. But mostly, it was a love story about three people who had found each other and decided to keep choosing each other every single day, for all the days to come. In her dreams that night, Amara flew a red kite with her family under a sky full of stars and infinite possibility. The kite soared steady and true, held aloft by three hands working together, reaching always toward the light.